So the Milwaukee Bucks just beat the Clippers, and it's looking better for the Bucks, especially in crunch time. In the last two games against the Pelicans and the Clippers, both very close games where the Bucks were able to come out on top down the stretch, and the Bucks have now won 5 in a row after losing 5 in a row. So they've turned it around quite a bit. With obviously the two biggest wins coming against the Pelicans and the Clippers in the last two games. So if we talk about the Bucks in crunch time, because I think that's probably what's the most interesting thing about this team, how they're going to close games. It's been the biggest question about this team in the last couple of years, and they just haven't really answered it when it's playoff time, and they've lost a few games because they can't really get it done near the end of games. But they've opted to go for a lineup with Giannis as the center and without Brook Lopez, which I'm a big fan of personally, and it has opened things up on both ends of the court. So the lineup that they were running at the end of this Clippers game was Giannis, Middleton, Drew Holiday, Pat Connaughton, and Dante DiVincenzo. And I think this lineup gives them some flexibility for sure on both ends of the court. So if we talk about on offense, near the end of the game in this Clippers game, it was a lot of Middleton with the ball in his hands and Giannis setting a screen for him, and then the weak side spaced out with three good shooters in Holiday, DiVincenzo, and Connaughton that the defense has to stick to and respect. And the Clippers really couldn't stop it because Middleton has that little floater and mid-range game, and then he is also a threat to score on all three levels. And then Giannis rolling to the rim, catching lobs, getting those pocket passes, and then finishing at the rim. And then a few times it was just a Middleton or Drew isolation, and there was one play where Giannis was able to cut off that and get a dunk. So I think it gives them a bit more with Giannis at center and his ability to both set screens and cut off ball, and gives them a new dimension. And then Drew Holiday, this was his first game back in a while, and he looked a bit rusty, but he definitely helps the Bucks as a stabling presence, a point guard, and someone who can. It feels like they play harder when Drew Holiday is playing, and he definitely helps out the team with his experience and his ability to play make and control the game, and then be a good defender. If we talk a bit about the defense, the Bucks thing has been always, having Lopez sit back in the paint and trying to allow mid-range shots and just protecting the rim at all costs. And there's still that protecting the rim at all costs mentality, you feel. A couple times the Clippers were able to drive and kick and collapse the D, and then they created some open shots that way. Ibaka got going in the second half and was able to hit a few mid-rangers and a few threes, and the Clippers were generating a fair few open or semi-open threes, which I think it's not the end of the world for the Bucks, but if a team gets hot from three, they can definitely really hurt the Bucks that way. But on defense, in crunch time when they were running Giannis at center, they were a bit reluctant to switch, but we're not switching at all. They were trying to get DiVincenzo on Kawhi, the Clippers, or DiVincenzo on Paul George and switch off Middleton or Giannis. And, it was sort of working for the Clippers, where they would hedge a bit and try and not really give up the switch, and then eventually they gave it up, but by that time there was 6 seconds left on the shot clock, and the Clippers were forced to burp up a bad three, or they couldn't really get inside or get a higher percentage look or get to the line or something like that, because the Bucks with that lineup, they're ultra switchy. With obviously Giannis being a great defender, he had 4 blocks, and then Drew and Middleton also being good defenders, and then DiVincenzo and Connaughton also being good defenders. So you got 5 good defenders out there. You'd think that teams would probably go and try and attack Connaughton or DiVincenzo just by virtue of them being, the shorter guys and not Drew Holiday. So I think that's probably a pretty viable lineup defensively, just because there's no weak link, and that can certainly helped them out. And then if we talk about, with Giannis at center, I think he can probably guard most big men, if not all big men. Like, he was fine on Ibaka or Morris or whoever the Clippers were throwing at him. He was guarding Kawhi near the end, which I really liked. Obviously in the Heat series, it was Giannis not guarding Jimmy Butler, and he was criticized for that. It was obviously a coaching decision, but in this game, putting him on Kawhi certainly helped. And Kawhi, they're going to Paul George down the stretch most of the time, the Clippers, because they didn't want to give it to Kawhi on Giannis. Kawhi still got a few points posting up on Drew and just doing his thing, but when Giannis was on him, it was pretty good. So I think, as I said, they can be a good defensive lineup. If we talk about if they're playing a dominant big man, and the guy to think about in the East is Joel Embiid, could Giannis stop Embiid? I mean, not totally, but would I rather have Giannis or Brook Lopez on him? I think I'd rather have Giannis, just because, okay, Embiid might get a few buckets in the post, but he's going to get those on Brook Lopez too. And then the Bucks against the Sixers would probably try and just double Embiid or just protect the paint and, try guys like Danny Green and Ben Simmons, see if they want to shoot and see what they want to do. And that could be a good strategy. And the other thing with having Giannis on Embiid instead of Brook Lopez, who, like, Brook Lopez would still play a bit and spend some time on him, but if they're going to that in crunch time and it's a close game, is Giannis could probably help stop Embiid on the perimeter, and with Embiid's mid-range and three, that's definitely a helpful thing. So I think this lineup can be good defensively and then just very, very good offensively with Giannis's vertical spacing and all the shooting and all the spacing that the lineup of Giannis, Drew, Middleton, Connaughton, and DiVincenzo could provide. If you talk about maybe a trade to get one more guy that could push them over the hump, because I definitely think they're in that top three in the East and have a real chance to make it to the finals. I don't think they would trade Lopez because they're still relying on him for 26 minutes a night, so they still need him for a bulk of the game. But when it comes down to crunch time, whether I think Drew, Giannis, and Middleton are always going to be on the floor because they're the three best players. And then I think DiVincenzo would probably be the fourth guy if he continues to shoot this well and play good defense. So if they could get a guy who's maybe a bit bigger than Connaughton, can maybe give them a bit more defensively. Connaughton is a good defender, but there's limitations of being however tall he is. He's not super tall, so he's 6'5", but if they could get someone who's 6'7" or 6'8", the guys you would think about, they don't really have much salary space or trade assets, but maybe PJ Tucker. I know PJ Tucker isn't much taller than Pat Connaughton, but he can guard centers, he can guard power forwards, and then offensively he can still provide the spacing. Could they get someone like that who could really help them out? It'll be interesting to see. But the Bucks, Giannis at center, it's looking good so far. They've won 5 straight, and we'll just have to see what happens. That's the end of this video, guys. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to this channel for more NBA content, and I'll see you guys next time.